Is Mr. White home?
What have you done?
This has nothing to do with you.
Goodbye, James.
This suicide mission cannot explode laboratory, please.
And life is all about leaving something behind.
Where is she?
The film begins with a haunting flashback, revealing a young girl, Madeline Swan, caring for her sick mother. Their fragile peace is shattered when a masked man approaches their home. Spotting him through the window, Madeline instinctively hides. The intruder enters, introducing himself as Lucifer Sophie, ominously declaring his intent to find Mr. White, whom he blames for the death of his family. When Madeline's mother is unable to provide information, the intruder coldly shoots her. In a desperate attempt to escape, Madeline retreats under her bed, but the intruder discovers her hiding place. In a twist of fate, she manages to shoot him and drags his body outside, only to realize he is still alive. In a frantic bid for survival, Madeline runs across an icy lake but tragically falls through the ice. Yet, in an unexpected moment of mercy, Lutza shoots the ice to rescue her. The narrative shifts to the present, where Madeline is living a romantic life with James Bond and Matera. Despite their happiness, Madeline senses Bond's unresolved feelings for Vesper Lind, whose grave lies nearby. She gently encourages him to let go of the past while she herself seeks closure by writing Masked Man in French on a piece of paper and setting it ablaze. The following morning, Bond visits Vesper's tomb to finally confront his feelings and seek forgiveness. He carries his own piece of paper that reads "Forgive me" to burn as a symbolic gesture. Just as he prepares to leave, he notices a Spectre calling card nearby. Moments later, the tomb erupts in an explosion. Bond reacts swiftly, escaping just in time to evade a group of assassins led by a man known as Cyclops, who possesses a cybernetic eye. Bond races back to his room on a motorcycle to retrieve Madeline, suspecting she may have betrayed him since the assassins should not have known his whereabouts. He swiftly gets her into his Aston Martin, leading to an exhilarating high-speed chase through the streets of Matera. As they navigate the chaos, Bond skillfully maneuvers to cause the assassins' vans to crash or be shot down. Cornered in a bustling plaza, Madeline pleads with Bond to take action while he hesitates, allowing bullets to rain down on them. Realizing she speaks the truth about their predicament, Bond activates the car's machine gun, decimating nearly all of their attackers except for one named Primo. Once they manage to escape the immediate danger, Bond takes Madeline to a train station. With trust between them shattered, he places her on a train and parts ways with her. As the train departs, she desperately reaches out for him, tears in her eyes, but he is already gone, leaving her alone with her heartache. 5 years later, a new team of assassins infiltrates an MI6 laboratory, operating under the orders of the enigmatic Safin. He reaches out to the head scientist, Valdo Obruchev, warning him of the impending danger. The assassins swiftly take Obruchev and another scientist hostage, ruthlessly eliminating the rest of the research team. Their mission centers around acquiring Heracles, a lethal bioweapon capable of delivering poison through mere skin-to-skin contact. After securing their prize, the assassins execute the other captive and abscond with Obruchev.
Oh, what is... There is no elevator!
Meanwhile, MI6 becomes aware of the breach, prompting Moneypenny to brief M, played by Ralph Fiennes. However, M remains reticent about the specifics of Heracles and demands to know the whereabouts of 007. Bond, having retired from MI6, is now living a quiet life in Jamaica. His tranquility is disrupted when he encounters Felix Leiter and his associate Logan Ash at a nightclub. Felix informs Bond about Obruchev's abduction and the lab break-in, but Bond shows little interest in re-engaging with MI6 affairs, expressing a growing distrust toward Ash. As Bond attempts to return home, he discovers that his car has malfunctioned. He is soon approached by Nomi, who offers him a ride on her motorcycle. Once they arrive at his residence, Nomi drops her disguise, revealing herself as an MI6 agent and the new 007. She informs Bond that Obruchev is her target and insists that he stay out of her way. In a bid to understand the situation better, Bond contacts M to inquire about Obruchev and any ties to Spectre. M abruptly hangs up, instructing Tanner to reach out to Blofeld, who is incarcerated in Belmarsh and is seen muttering to himself in his cell. Meanwhile, Felix arranges for Bond to travel to Cuba to meet a CIA operative named Paloma. Together, they infiltrate a clandestine Spectre gathering where Blofeld is using a robotic eye similar to Primo's to monitor the proceedings. Inside the facility, Obruchev is coerced into activating Heracles but discreetly switches a vial in the process. As Bond and Paloma uncover Blofeld's sinister intentions, the entire party turns its attention toward them. The Heracles poison is released into the air, seemingly targeting Bond while sparing Spectre agents. However, the outcome is catastrophic for Spectre operatives. They begin to develop gruesome boils on their faces before collapsing dead, while Bond and Paloma remain completely unaffected amidst the chaos. The tension escalates as Bond and Paloma confront a group of armed gunmen, including the formidable Primo, while Nomi arrives to capture Obruchev. After dispatching several henchmen with impressive skill, Paloma seizes a vehicle and spots Obruchev attempting to escape. In a dramatic maneuver, she crashes the car into the structure he is descending, causing both him and the structure to plummet onto the vehicle below. Bond then takes charge of Obruchev, parting ways with Paloma after she hands him a cigar intended for Felix, before piloting a rickety old plane with Obruchev on board. Upon reaching Felix's boat, Bond introduces Obruchev to Felix and his associate Ash. As they begin to interrogate Obruchev about Heracles and its selective effects, specifically why it spared Bond, tension mounts. Ash grows visibly anxious and urges Obruchev to cease his revelations. In a shocking confession, Obruchev reveals that he had always intended for Spectre to be the primary victims of the bioweapon. He had altered the DNA sample during the poisoning to target them instead of Bond. He further discloses that M was complicit in the creation of Heracles. When Bond inquires how Blofeld anticipated his presence, a chilling realization dawns on him: Ash is a double agent colluding with Obruchev. In the ensuing struggle, Ash stabs Felix and escapes with Obruchev, detonating an explosive that blows a hole in the ship and sends it sinking. Despite Bond's desperate attempts to save Felix, it becomes clear that the gunshot wound is fatal, forcing Felix to accept his grim fate. With a heavy heart, Bond leaves his friend behind in order to escape. Returning to MI6, Bond confronts M, demanding access to Belmarsh to speak with Blofeld. M, however, rebuffs him and sends him away in frustration. In response, M calls Nomi to instruct her to thoroughly scan everything in Blofeld's cell, including Blofeld himself. As Bond exits, Moneypenny offers her assistance. That night, they visit Q at his home, where he is preparing for dinner with his boyfriend. They request his expertise in examining the files they've recovered. Upon reviewing them, Q uncovers a list of Spectre targets, leaving only Blofeld unaccounted for. Additionally, he finds thousands of files concerning DNA samples from individuals around the globe. Bond urges Q to facilitate M's meeting with Blofeld, but Q reveals that only one person has access to him. The scene shifts to Madeline, who arrives at her office as a psychiatrist. There, she encounters Safin, initially failing to recognize him until he reveals his broken mask, a haunting reminder of their shared past. As fear grips her, he reveals that he needs her for a crucial purpose. Shortly thereafter, Bond convenes with the entire MI6 team to seek reinstatement as a OO agent. During this meeting, they examine files related to the funeral of a Spectre operative, noting with grim concern that 5 of his family members, who had come into contact with him, have died from the deadly Heracles poison. M elaborates on the origins of Heracles, clarifying that it was never intended to be as lethal as it has become. Originally designed for targeted individuals through contact, it has now been weaponized with nanobots to indiscriminately pursue targets and anyone connected to them. M ultimately grants Bond permission to meet with Blofeld in hopes of uncovering vital information. Bond travels to Belmarsh and encounters Madeline again. He attempts to extend his hand in greeting, but she withdraws, signaling her discomfort. When Blofeld is brought before them, Madeline's anxiety escalates, prompting her to try to leave. Bond instinctively grasps her wrist, but she pulls away and exits, leaving him alone with Blofeld. The villain revels in taunting Bond, revealing that he orchestrated an attack at Vesper's tomb to manipulate Bond into believing that Madeline had betrayed him. Pushed to his limits by Blofeld's provocations, Bond reaches a breaking point and lunges at him. Just as Tanner arrives to intervene, they discover that Blofeld has succumbed to poisoning, his death a direct result of Bond's touch. Bond realizes with horror that he has been infected with Heracles after his contact with Madeline, and now he is unable to purge it from his system. In the chaos, Madeline has vanished from her apartment without a trace. Driven by urgency, Bond tracks her down to her childhood home, where he is astonished to find that she has a daughter. Although Madeline insists that the child is not Bond's, the revelation adds complexity to their reunion. After tucking Matilda into bed, Madeline divulges critical information about Safin, Blofeld had manipulated her father into exterminating Safin's entire family, leaving him as the sole survivor with haunting facial scars. She also mentions an island once owned by Safin's family, which now serves as his operational base. Bond relays this intelligence to Q, who confirms that the island lies between Japan and Russia. Meanwhile, Nomi is on the hunt for Ash. However, Bond learns that Ash and Safin's minions are closing in. Acting swiftly to ensure their safety, he evacuates Madeline and Matilda from the house. As they make their escape on the road, they are pursued by Safin's assassins. In a tense confrontation, Bond manages to run two of their vehicles off the road, but their own vehicle is also sent careening off course in the chaos. Bond engages in a fierce battle against the assassins, skillfully shooting at them and setting clever traps to thwart a few more. As the chaos unfolds, Ash emerges, intent on confronting Bond himself. In a dramatic turn of events, Bond flips his van, causing Ash to crash violently. Injured but alive, Ash crawls out and pleads for Bond's assistance. However, driven by a thirst for vengeance for Felix's death, Bond coldly pushes Ash's van down a slope, ensuring it crushes him. In the aftermath, Bond discovers that Madeline and Matilda have been kidnapped and taken to Safin's island. Determined to rescue them, he rejoins MI6, where Nomi formally relinquishes the 007 title to him. Together, they set out for the island with a singular mission: to stop Safin and save Madeline and Matilda. Meanwhile, Safin has taken the two captive in his garden, surrounded by deadly plants and the nanobots being cultivated for Heracles' poison distribution. Upon arriving at the island, Bond and Nomi infiltrate the facility, engaging in a fierce showdown with armed guards. They successfully capture Obruchev, but their explosives are insufficient to destroy the compound.
What? What are you doing? This is suicide mission. Cannot explode laboratory, please. You will never leave this island alive.
In a moment of ruthless justice, Nomi forces Obruchev into a pool of nanobots, gruesomely dissolving him as the remaining workers flee in terror at the sight. Madeline seizes an opportunity to escape from her captor, Primo, by throwing hot tea in his face. Meanwhile, Bond confronts Safin, who holds Matilda hostage. In a desperate plea for their safety, Bond kneels and begs Safin not to harm them in exchange for his compliance. However, he secretly draws a concealed pistol and eliminates Safin's guards, but Safin manages to escape through a hatch with Matilda. The little girl bravely bites Safin, prompting him to release her. She quickly hides until Madeline finds her. Bond reunites with them just in time to help them escape. Just then, Primo attacks Bond, but he cleverly uses Q's gadget-laden watch to disable Primo's cybernetic eye, causing it to explode and kill him. As Bond rushes to open the hatch doors for the Royal Navy to launch missiles at the facility, he faces another obstacle: the doors are closing again because of Safin. In a tense confrontation, Bond is shot by Safin and infected with nanobots programmed to target Madeline and Matilda. A fierce struggle ensues between them. Bond manages to break Safin's arm before shooting him dead. With renewed determination, he opens the doors again but realizes that escaping would endanger Madeline and Matilda. In a final act of love, he contacts Q, who facilitates a call with Madeline. They share an emotional moment, reaffirming their love and confirming that Matilda is indeed Bond's daughter. As the missiles arrive, obliterating the facility, and Bond himself, his sacrifice becomes evident to everyone left behind. Back at MI6, M, Tanner, Q, Moneypenny, and Nomi gather solemnly to toast Bond's memory. Meanwhile, Madeline drives Matilda to Matera to begin anew. As they journey together, she decides to share the story of her father, a man named Bond, James Bond, ensuring his legacy lives on in their hearts. Thank you for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.